It started with a feeling. Not a loud one, not like a scream in the dark, more like a whisper. Soft, persistent, a twinge in the gut I couldn't shake off. I just moved into a new apartment in Chicago, Logan Square, a quiet street lined with old brick buildings and cracked sidewalks, the kind of place that felt lived in. I was coming off a bad breakup and a messy job switch, trying to piece my life back together. The apartment wasn't much, but it was mine. First floor, a little drafty, big windows, creaky floors, decent kitchen. Enough. That first week went by like a blur, unpacking boxes, getting groceries, setting up Wi-Fi, meeting a few neighbors. I'd come home from my new job at the firm downtown around 6, heat up leftovers, put something dumb on Netflix, and crash. But around the 4th night, something shifted. I remember it clearly. I was walking home from the Blue Line, earbuds in, hoodie up, shoulders hunched against the wind. The sidewalk was mostly empty, just a couple kids on bikes and a woman walking her dog. But for the last few blocks, I felt it. That someone was behind me. I turned around once. No one. Then again, a minute later. Still nothing. I tried to laugh it off. Told myself I was just being paranoid. Big city, new place, nerves. But that night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling. My blinds were drawn, door locked, everything quiet. But still, it felt like someone was out there, watching. Over the next few days, the feeling only grew stronger. I'd catch something in my peripheral vision, a shadow slipping behind a tree. I'd hear faint footsteps behind me on my way home, only to find an empty sidewalk when I turned. It was subtle enough to make me doubt myself. Maybe I was just anxious. Maybe I missed my ex more than I cared to admit. Maybe moving cities had messed with my head. But then things started happening. One evening I came home and found my front door unlocked. I froze. I never forget to lock it. It was the first habit I built in this city. I stepped inside slowly, heart pounding in my throat. Everything looked untouched. Nothing missing, nothing out of place. Still, I walked through every room with a knife from the kitchen in my hand, just in case. The next day, I started locking the door with a key and sliding the deadbolt, and I started checking it twice, 3 times. But the worst part came 3 days later. I was leaving for work, rushing because I was late for a morning meeting. I stepped out the door and nearly tripped over something lying on my welcome mat. A photo. I bent down slowly and picked it up. It was a picture of me. Taken from across the street, through the window. I was sitting on the couch, eating dinner. It was taken at night, you could tell by the lighting. My blood ran cold. There was no note, just that one picture. I scanned the street, but it was quiet. Too quiet. I didn't go to work that day. Instead, I stayed home with all the lights off, peeking through the blinds like some paranoid shut-in. I called the police. A young officer came by, looked at the photo, took a few notes, and told me it was probably a prank. Said they'd make a record of it, but unless something else happened, there wasn't much they could do. Yeah? Probably a prank. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. Every headlight through the blinds made me hold my breath. The next morning, there was nothing on the mat. No new photo, no note. But when I checked my phone, there was a message from an unknown number. You should close your blinds before eating. I nearly dropped the phone. I called the number, straight to voicemail. No name, just a generic greeting. My hands were shaking. I wanted to tell someone, my coworker Jamie maybe, or my older cousin Jenna who lived up in Evanston. But what would I even say? Hey, I think someone's stalking me and they might be in love with photography. Instead, I did the stupid thing. I stayed quiet. I kept it to myself. But that night, I started sleeping with a baseball bat next to my bed. I opened the front door after work, heart already racing. The hallway smelled like stale takeout and pine-scented floor cleaner. I glanced down instinctively. No photo this time, no note. Nothing. Still, I double-locked the door behind me and pulled the blinds tight, just like the message had warned. I dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes, and stood there in the middle of the living room listening. No sounds except the hum of the fridge and the occasional groan of the old radiator. I walked to the window and lifted a corner of the blind, peeking out. Across the street, a man in a dark hoodie stood near the lamppost, not moving, just there. My stomach twisted. He wasn't doing anything, just standing with his hands in his pockets, head slightly tilted toward my building. I let the blind fall and stepped back. I didn't call the cops. I didn't even grab my phone. Instead, I turned off the lights in the apartment, sat on the floor with my back against the wall, and waited. After 10 minutes, I looked again. He was gone. I told myself again that it could be nothing, a random guy, a coincidence. But the way he stood there, the stillness of it, it felt intentional. The next few days were quiet, almost peaceful. No messages, no photos, no figures under the streetlight. I let myself believe it was over. But I couldn't shake the paranoia. I started leaving the TV on at night just to hear another voice. I kept the bat close, checked every window lock twice before bed. And then, Saturday morning, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text, a real letter in a plain white envelope. No return address. Just my name, printed in neat block letters. Inside was a single line. "You don't remember, do you?" No signature. I stared at the paper until the words blurred. Don't remember what? I thought about everything, about my childhood, my family, my old friends, about my ex. Was this someone I hurt? Someone I forgot? My phone buzzed. Jamie asking if I wanted to grab lunch. I typed out a sure, but didn't hit send. I couldn't focus. I couldn't be around people, not while this shadow hung over me. I needed answers. That night, I dug through an old box of family photos I kept buried in the back of my closet. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Maybe a face, maybe a clue. I flipped through pictures of birthdays, school events, a few vacations, and then I stopped on one I hadn't looked at in years. It was me and my brother, Tyler. The two of us were sitting on the front steps of our old house in Milwaukee. I must have been 8. He was 12. We looked happy. But that wasn't how it ended. Tyler had disappeared when he was 19, just vanished. No note, no goodbye. I was 15. Our mom was a wreck. The cops said he probably ran away. No sign of foul play, no real leads. A few supposed sightings that went nowhere. Eventually, the trail went cold. Mom stopped talking about him. I buried it. We all did. But now, my skin prickled. You don't remember, do you? What if this wasn't just about a stranger? What if it wasn't random at all? I dug out my laptop, pulled up Facebook, and typed in Tyler Hayes. Dozens of results, none of them him. I added filters, old hometown, age range. Still nothing. But then I remembered something. He had a friend back then, Eric Levin. They were inseparable for a while. I searched him instead. Eric's page was private, but his profile pic was public. He looked older, heavier, beard now. But it was definitely him. And more importantly, he had a recent post. Back in town for the weekend, visiting family. Crazy how much has changed. There was a tagged location, Chicago. I stared at the screen. It couldn't be a coincidence. Could it? I hesitated, then sent him a message. Hey Eric, I'm not sure if you remember me. It's Josh, Tyler's brother. Any chance you're free to meet while you're in town? I didn't expect a reply, but 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Holy crap, Josh Hayes? Yeah, I remember you. Actually, yeah, let's meet. There's something I've been meaning to talk to you about. I met Eric at a bar in River North. One of those half-underground places with old brick walls and booths tucked deep into the corners. He was already there when I arrived, nursing a whiskey. Same nervous energy he had back when we were kids, just buried under a few more pounds and a weathered face. He stood when he saw me. "Josh," he said, like he was trying to convince himself it was really me. "Hey, man." I gave him a quick handshake, then slid into the booth opposite him. There was a long pause before either of us said anything. Finally, I broke it. "You said there was something you wanted to tell me?" Eric looked down into his glass. "Yeah, I wasn't sure if I ever should, but after you messaged me, it felt like maybe now's the time." I nodded, heart thumping. "It's about Tyler." I didn't breathe. "He's alive, isn't he?" Eric looked up slowly, guilt etched into every line of his face. "Yes." The word hit me like a punch. I saw him about a year ago," he continued. "I was out in Detroit for a work thing, and there he was, sitting on a bench outside a train station. Looked like hell. Scruffy, thinner, older. But it was him. No doubt in my mind." "Did you talk to him?" I tried. He recognized me, but he wasn't happy to see me. Told me to forget I saw him. Said he didn't want to be found. "Did he say why he left?" Eric hesitated. "Not directly, but he said some stuff. Something about your mom and about you. Said he couldn't unsee what happened. Said it was better if he stayed gone." I frowned. "What the hell does that mean?" Eric just shook his head. I asked, but he wouldn't explain, just kept repeating that it wasn't safe for him to come back, or for you two to be around each other. I sat back, numb. This was too much, too fast. "So, what? He's back now? In Chicago?" "I don't know. Maybe. But if he is, and he's watching you, that's not a good sign." "What do you mean?" Eric leaned forward, voice low. "Look, I don't know what went down in your house before he left. But I remember Tyler toward the end. He wasn't right, man. He started getting paranoid. Talked about someone breaking into the house, following him, messing with his stuff. But no one ever saw anything. He thought people were spying on him. Sometimes he even said it was you." I stared at him, stunned. "He was 15, I muttered. "I was just a kid." "I know, that's what made it so weird, like, why would your little brother be spying on you?" He never told me any of this. Eric drained the rest of his drink. I didn't say anything after he disappeared because I thought, maybe he really did just want a clean break. But now, if he's stalking you or trying to send you messages, man, that's not okay. I looked down at my hands, trying to process everything. There were gaps in my memory from back then. My parents were always fighting. Mom was stretched thin. Tyler was distant, angry, and I was lost in my own teenage world, too distracted to notice anything deeper. But something Eric said stuck with me. He couldn't unsee what happened. What did he mean by that? When we finally left the bar, Eric gave me a half-hearted smile. "If you do see him again, be careful, okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, you too." We parted ways outside. The wind had picked up, and I tugged my coat tighter as I walked back toward the train. My thoughts were racing. When I got back to my apartment, I did what I hadn't done in years. I pulled out the old box of family stuff from the closet again. I rummaged through it until I found the folder with old documents, report cards, doctor visits, some drawings from when I was a kid. And then I saw it. A sheet of lined notebook paper, folded twice. On it, in Tyler's handwriting. "Don't trust what they told you. You saw it too. You just forgot." It didn't have a date, no context. But it sent a chill down my spine. I didn't remember writing anything, didn't remember seeing anything. But something deep in my brain stirred, like a locked door, rattling just a little. The next morning, I woke up to another envelope. No return address, just like before. Inside was a second photo. This one was taken from inside my apartment. Me, sleeping. Someone had been in my home. I stared at the photo in my hand for a long time. It wasn't just unsettling, it was violating. I was asleep, lying on my side, bat and phone on the nightstand. The photo was grainy, but it was clearly taken from just a few feet away. My room, my bed. Someone had been standing right there. I ran through every possibility. The locks, intact, no windows broken. But then I remembered something that hit me like a punch to the gut. 2 nights ago, I'd gone down to toss out some trash late and didn't recheck the back door. I'd assumed it was locked. It wasn't. I felt sick. I called the cops again. This time, they took it more seriously. The officer took the photo, asked a lot more questions, even called in someone to dust for prints. I could tell he thought it was probably someone I knew. "I'll be honest," he said, tucking the photo into an evidence sleeve. "This doesn't feel random. Stalkers usually escalate like this when they know their target." "Great," I muttered. "So you're saying I'm the target?" The officer looked at me with something like sympathy. "Do you have any reason to think it could be family?" I paused. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I might." When they left, I sat alone in the living room, blinds drawn tight, every light on. I thought about Tyler. About the letter, the photo, the message, and that weird, creeping phrase. "You saw it too, you just forgot." I didn't want to admit it, but some part of me had been feeling the past few weeks like there were gaps in my memory, things not adding up. I chalked it up to stress, paranoia. But what if there was something buried deeper? I needed more answers. So that evening, I drove up to Milwaukee. The house I grew up in was still there, smaller than I remembered. The windows were different, the shutters gone, but it still had that same tired look it always did. Someone else lived there now, a nice older couple who didn't mind when I explained who I was and asked if I could walk through for a minute, just for closure. They let me in. It was strange. Every room brought back something small. The hallway with the scuff marks from when Tyler used to ride his skateboard indoors. The narrow staircase we'd raced down as kids. Mom's old reading chair was gone, but I could picture her in the corner of the living room like she'd never left it. But it was the basement that hit me hardest. I stood at the top of the stairs, suddenly frozen. There was a smell I remembered. Damp wood, cold concrete. The couple told me I could go down if I wanted. I did. The stairs creaked under me as I descended, hand grazing the rail. The basement looked cleaner than I remembered. No more old boxes or broken furniture, just wide open space, a washer and dryer in the corner. But near the back wall, something caught my eye. There was a patch of drywall that didn't quite match the rest, a square panel, slightly uneven. I stepped closer. It was a crawlspace panel. I remembered it now. Dad had installed it years ago to cover some old wiring. But Tyler used to hide stuff there. Hands trembling, I popped the panel loose. Inside, dusty and yellowed with age, were a few small items: a torn notebook, a cheap plastic flashlight, and a bundle of old Polaroids. I pulled them out, crouched down, and flipped through them one by one. And my stomach dropped. There were pictures of me, dozens. As a kid, a teen, in my room, in the backyard, at school. All taken without me knowing. Some were clearly very old. Some looked more recent. One had a note scrawled on the back in Tyler's messy handwriting. He doesn't even remember what he did. That's the scariest part. I sat there on the basement floor, trying to breathe. What did I do? What could I have done that would make my own brother watch me for years? I was still shaking when I drove home. It was past midnight when I pulled into my block in Chicago. The street was quiet. Just one car parked across from my building, an old beige Toyota that hadn't been there earlier. I got out of my car, glanced at the Toyota, and froze. There was someone inside. Hood pulled low, head turned just slightly toward me. I stood there, keys in hand, heart thudding. Then the driver's door opened, and my brother stepped out. He looked older, gaunt, hair longer, face thinner than I remembered. But it was him. "Tyler?" I said, voice cracking. He looked at me like he hadn't slept in days, maybe weeks. "I didn't want it to get this far," he said quietly. "But you weren't going to remember on your own." "Remember what?" I snapped. "What are you talking about? You've been stalking me, breaking into my apartment, taking photos." "Because you need to know," he said, "and I couldn't trust anyone else to make you see it." I took a step back, shaken. "See what, Tyler?" He stared at me, eyes hollow. "You ruined everything, and you don't even remember." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The street was dead quiet, no cars passing, no wind, just the faint hum of a street lamp overhead. "You need to start explaining," I said, my voice shaking. "Now." Tyler didn't move. He just looked at me like he was staring through me. "It started that night," he said quietly. "The night before I left." My stomach turned. "I came downstairs," he continued. "It was late, past midnight. You and Mom were in the kitchen. You were yelling. I don't even remember what about. Something stupid. But she was crying, and you were—" He stopped himself, looked away. His jaw clenched like he was holding back something physical. "You hit her." "What?" I took a step back. "No, I've never— Tyler, what are you talking about?" "You did," he said. "I saw it." "No," I shook my head instantly. "You're wrong. I've never hit Mom, ever." "You don't remember, Josh. That's what I've been trying to tell you. You blocked it out. The therapist told her it was dissociation, that kids sometimes, especially under stress, forget violent things they do." I felt sick. "I would never." "You did," he said. "And it wasn't the first time. I saw bruises on her before that, and she always had an excuse. Josh was just upset. Josh didn't mean it. But that night she told me everything. She said she was scared of you." "No, that's not—" My mind was spinning. "Tyler, that's not possible. I loved her. I loved both of you." "I know," he said softly. "That's what made it so hard. You were my brother. I wanted to believe she was wrong, that maybe she exaggerated. But after that night, I couldn't unsee it, couldn't pretend anymore. I packed a bag and left." "And you didn't think to talk to me?" I shouted. "You just disappeared for 10 years." "Would you have believed me?" he asked, almost sadly. "If I'd told you the truth back then?" I said nothing, because I didn't know the answer. "But that's not why I came back," he added. "I came back because I thought maybe enough time had passed. Maybe you'd changed. I watched you, Josh. You looked normal, healthy. You had a job, friends. But then the signs started again. The temper, the little moments." "What signs?" "You kicked that garbage can outside the cafe when your coffee was wrong. You shouted at that girl on the phone, Maya or Mia, who was crying in the hallway." I froze. Maya, my ex. He had seen all of that. "You started to remind me of how you were back then," he said. "So I sent the photo. I thought, maybe I could nudge something loose in your memory, make you see it." "And breaking into my apartment?" I snapped. "Taking photos of me while I sleep? What the hell kind of nudge is that?" "I needed you to feel what I felt," he said. "How it feels when someone watches you. How it feels to be afraid of the person you're supposed to trust." I stared at him, my fists clenched. "I'm not a monster," I said. Tyler didn't reply. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out one final thing, a small, beat-up cassette recorder. "I recorded that night," he said. "When you and Mom fought. I didn't even mean to. It was just something I started doing back then when things got tense." He handed it to me. "Listen to it, and if you still think I'm wrong, I'll leave you alone. Forever." I stood there holding it, my hand shaking. Tyler got back into the car and started the engine. He didn't say goodbye. Just drove away. It took me 3 days to press play. 3 days of staring at the thing on my table like it was a live bomb. When I finally did, it started with silence. Then, faint voices. My voice, Mom's voice. A door slamming, raised tones. And then, my voice again, louder, meaner, full of rage I didn't recognize. The sound of something breaking. And finally, my mother crying. I stopped the tape. There was a weight in my chest I'd never felt before, like something had just been dragged out of the dark and dropped at my feet. He was right. I had forgotten. Or maybe I had forced myself to forget. It didn't change everything, didn't justify the stalking or the fear he put me through. But it explained it. It explained him. It explained me. It's been 2 months since I last saw Tyler. I don't know where he is now. Sometimes I think about calling him. I probably will, eventually. I've started therapy. For real this time. Not just to cope, but to dig into the places I've been too afraid to go. I haven't told anyone about the tape. Some things I'm still not ready to say out loud. But I listen to it sometimes, not because I enjoy it, but because I have to remember. For her, for him, and for me. Because what's more terrifying than being watched is realizing you were watching yourself the whole time and didn't see the truth until it was too late.
Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more interesting content coming soon.